Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Dhruva Maharaj had become very angry. Anger is not generally considered a very good quality. Generally one is expected to be, as is mentioned here, tolerant, merciful, friendly and equal. However, anger can be a good quality if used in the service of the Lord.
Pero de todas maneras, la ira puede ser una buena cualidad si se utiliza en el servicio del Señor.
And in fact, some of the most well-known devotees have become well-known for their exhibition of anger in the service of the Lord. Any examples anyone can give? Arjuna, Hanuman. What was Hanuman's anger? How did he exhibit that? You should know. He burned Lanka, yeah. And killed many thousands of people in the process. Thousands of Rakshasas and Rakshasis. Is it possible this lady, she could sit without the foot towards the day? Yeah. Now, that anger is glorious because it's used in the service of the Lord. But otherwise, anger which is used for one's own sense gratification, that is demoniac, as it causes great harm to others. However, even tolerance, mercy, friendship and equality, if not, although apparently good qualities, if not engaged in the service of the Lord, they're also demoniac. A tolerant demon, merciful demon, friendly demon, and what's the word in English? Equal-minded, what's the word? Equanimity. What's the adjective of that? Equanimous demon, or fair-minded demon. How is that possible? Well, it's very prominent at the present time. People preach, or people speak of tolerance in the words of the great modern poets, great poets of the modern age. Let it be. This was written, this is the words of the great sage John Lennon, or maybe Paul McCartney. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. In other words, everything's okay, just tolerate everything. But tolerance of everything is demoniac. Rather, we should follow the rules of Shastra and be intolerant towards breaking of rules of Shastra. For instance, in the modern age, in many Western countries, it is illegal to be intolerant of homosexuality. 100 years ago, if one if one engaged in homosexuality or spoke in favor of it, one could be imprisoned, as actually happened in Britain to a famous Irish poet and dramatist, Oscar Wilde. His name was Oscar Wilde. He's not that famous, but anyway. He's famous among English literati. Nowadays, if one says in Britain, in the same country, if one says anything against homosexuality, he's liable to be imprisoned. Values have changed. Previously, nowadays people think that one should be tolerant of everything, pretty much everything. But this so-called, what they consider a good quality of tolerance, that is actually simply a mask to allow unlimited gross sense gratification, gross and sinful sense gratification. Similarly, the mercy of demons is foolish and sinful. Just like they talk about humanely killing animals. That we're killing so many animals in the slaughterhouse, but humanely. That means humane killing means they say that, well, we just kill them very quickly so they don't suffer any pain. Is it a very good proposition? If I put a gun to your head and say, I'm going to shoot you, but don't worry, it'll be over very quickly. It won't hurt because you'll be dead instantly. It's an oxymoron, or a contradictory. The adjective and the noun, humane killing, they're contradictory. There's no such thing as humane killing. Or they talk of mercy killing, euthanasia, which many people nowadays are voluntarily going in for. And it's probably, is it legalized yet in any country in the West? I think in Holland maybe. Yeah. So demoniac people think, well, this is very good. So you have to suffer so much and die, so why not just die without the suffering? But they don't know the laws of nature. Pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidurasuraha. They do not know what is proper behavior or improper behavior because they are demons. They don't know that killing, even apparently to put someone out of suffering, is simply causing them more suffering. Because whatever suffering they have to undergo according to their karma, one cannot remove that. They'll have to suffer it in a future life. And if they agree to or personally prematurely end their lives by then they accrue more sin for that very act. Similarly, the foolish demons, they are against capital punishment. But they don't know that this is mercy killing. Capital punishment for a murderer, that is actually merciful towards him. That's actual mercy killing. No. They simply judge from their humanistic or humanistically misguided viewpoint. Similarly, their friendship, the friendship of one who is not Krishna conscious, that a devotee should avoid. It is not beneficial. If a friend is talking all so many things without any relationship with Krishna consciousness, then he's not a friend, he's an enemy. That's why most of the parents in the world, they are the worst enemies of their children. They think I'm looking after my children, I'm being so good to them. But if they don't train them in Krishna consciousness, then they're actually committing violence on them, spoiling the opportunity of human life. And this samatva, or equal vision, well, that's just like in the modern age they have this feminism, that men and women should be considered equal in all respects. That women should also have the opportunity to go to Iraq and torture prisoners. Why only the men? They should also be in the front fighting troops and do everything exactly the same as men. Totally overlooking that men and women, by the arrangement of nature, have completely different psychophysical propensities. As Prabhupada pointed out, if men and women are to be equal, then the men, they should also give birth to babies. Why only women? And it also introduces the very dangerous principle of men and women mixing unrestrictedly, which is very convenient for the demons who wish to enjoy illicit sex. So this kind of false equality is actually demoniac. So actually all the good qualities are only possible in devotees, as is stated in a well-known verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada often quoted. Does anyone know that verse? That only devotees have good qualities and demons don't have any. That's the last line. Yasya asti suraha. Okay, you got it. This means that those who are akinchan, devotees of the Supreme Lord, those who have no desire for anything but to serve Krishna, they are the natural abode of all godly qualities. Whereas non-devotees, they have no good qualities, for they are simply on the mental platform and mental and external platform. Now this may seem like a very extraordinary statement, that non-devotees have no good qualities. Did you never meet a non-devotee who was polite, well-behaved, honest, moral? Do such persons not exist? Is it not that many times we can see that non-devotees, they appear to be better behaved than many devotees? So how are we to understand this? Well, one point is that this verse in Prahlad Maharaj speaks about those who are akinchan devotees, those who don't desire anything but to serve Krishna. Mixed devotees, they're obvious, the very fact that their devotion is mixed with material desires means that their character is also going to be mixed with ungodly qualities. So that is one consideration. Another consideration is that all the good qualities of non-devotees are simply meant for facilitating sense gratification. Now, a totally gross demon, he doesn't care for others at all, except to exploit them. But those who are more sophisticated non-devotees, they are concerned with the well-being of others also, not only themselves. However, because they consider the well-being of themselves and others to be defined in terms of physical and mental pleasure, devoid of surrender to Krishna, therefore their all good qualities are simply on the external platform. Because the non-devotees consider that the well-being of themselves and others is in terms of their physical and mental benefit, without consideration of surrender to Krishna, therefore their so-called good qualities are simply external. Their basic spirit of non-surrender to Krishna, that is demoniac. And therefore any apparent good qualities, they're not actually good because they come from the platform of non-surrender to Krishna. In two countries that I spent some time in during this momentary life, what I've passed of this momentary life, the inhabitants are known to be very nice. One is Thailand, the smiling Thais. Thai people are known as the smiling Thais because they're always smiling. However, they're also totally atheistic, being Buddhists. And not only Buddhists, but Theravada Buddhists, which means hardcore Buddhists. Theravada, otherwise known as Hinayana. Anyway, never mind about that. So most of them haven't got the faintest idea of anything about Buddhist philosophy, because the central interest in Thai life and culture is sanuk. Sanuk means happiness, which is of course measured in terms of sense enjoyment. So the Thai people are fully dedicated. It is the national passion, to a full dedication to the pursuit of happiness defined in terms of sensual happiness. So everyone is they're all nicely enjoying sanuk together. And Thais are always smiling. They should always smile. Even if they feel upset inside, they simply smile outside. In case the internal dissatisfaction gets too much, then they're likely to pull out a knife and kill someone. They don't have any in-between phase of getting gradually angry. It all boils up inside, and they're just trying to be nice. But if someone can't control it, then it just bursts out and they kill someone. Anyway. The only I didn't have any personal experience of anyone getting angry at me, thankfully, while I was there. But in the course of preaching, I often found one means to make Thais stop smiling. One thing that upset them deeply was to speak to them about the existence of God. They're very deeply disturbed by any discussion of there being a supreme being. Now, another country in which I spent 5 months, not that much time, was Denmark, where everyone is also very nice. They're not very nice to the pigs. Danish bacon is famous.
What?
Danish bacon. Bacon, that's on the British breakfast table, not the Spanish. So I don't know now, but in Denmark at that time, which was 1979, there were more pigs than people. And at least in two towns that we visited, we saw in the center of the town, on a very high plinth, a huge bronze statue of a pig. So you may wonder what's this got to do with Krishna consciousness, telling all these things. But it does help to demonstrate how that even persons who are very nice, they may also be very stupid if they're not Krishna conscious. To spend thousands of dollars kronas, to millions of kronas maybe, to build a huge statue of a pig, and that's like the crowning glory of your town. So you can imagine that in Denmark, they have no one's rich and no one's poor. They take all the. It's like a Robin Hood government. They take all the taxes from the rich people and they spread it all out, and everyone's happy. Porque, yeah, pork. They're eating pork. And they're very tolerant to everyone and very nice and everything is good and everyone's happy. So in the course of meeting with people there, we came to know that just, for instance, one symptom of their open-minded society is that in the schools it was a normal thing for the children, say age 14 or whatever, to be having sex with their teachers. You know, it's having all those pigs around must have some effect on the people's consciousness. And you can also imagine that there are not many vegetarians in a country whose economy is based on pig slaughter. So we had this experience when we were talking. Actually, we'd hitchhiked a ride from one town to another. We were on the pick, collecting for preaching vehicles for Bangladesh.
You were what about?
We were on the pick.
Yes.
Never heard that phrase?
Yes. On what?
Collecting funds for preaching, to purchase preaching vehicles for Bangladesh. So two of us, we hitched a ride from one. We were hitching a ride from one town to another to do our sales.
To sales?
Sales. We were selling records.
Entonces,
Oasis. And so one young couple, they picked us up and they asked what we're doing, and we told, well, actually we're monks and we're traveling around. And they were very nice. But then when we said we're vegetarians, then the man his whole countenance changed. I don't like anyone telling me what I should eat. So we should very nicely and friendlily all eat pig together and prepare ourselves to become pigs in the next life. So such niceness may appear to be very nice, but it's actually not. This niceness that accommodates envy towards others, this so-called niceness, this is not niceness. After the Second World War, before the Second World War, Hitler was considered very nice by those of his countrymen who he hadn't killed. Once he had killed his main political opponents, then pretty much everyone in the country supported him. And his Kampf seemed very reasonable to the Germans at that time. That, we're Germans and we're the best, so all these surrounding countries, we should just invade them and take them over because we need more space. And actually his philosophy, it is, if we accept Darwinism, then his philosophy is the natural outcome of that. Survival of the fittest, the strong shall overcome. So it's good for the human species that those who are less capable and strong, they should be eliminated, and the strong ones, they should rule. Anyway, after the Second World War, they formed the United Nations, which had the United Nations Charter of Human Rights, in which they stated several self-evident principles which are ridden with foolishness, full of foolishness. For instance, they say that it is self-evident that all human beings have equal rights. But this is not actually a fact, because some people are born with more Janmaishvarya Shruta Shri than others, better birth, more money, more intelligent and more beautiful. So the very basis of their Charter of Human Rights is foolish. And it's a charter of the human rights, or the human right to exploit and terrorize other species. All human beings have an equal right to kill and terrorize and torture and eat animals. They, while wanting to protect human beings, they have incorporated the exploitation of animals, trees, and other species. So those who are not, I'm just giving these as a few prominent examples of how those who are not in Krishna consciousness, due to their lack of knowledge of the purpose of human life, cannot but be divest of all good qualities. Even their attempts to be good, because they're based on envy of Krishna, they cannot but be harmful to others. Everything a non-devotee does is harmful to himself and others. Even the mother very lovingly fondling her child is actually being violent to that child if she doesn't teach him about Krishna. She doesn't teach him that the goal of life is not to be attached to me, but to be attached to Krishna. So this should be understood very clearly. This is one of the factors that distinguishes Krishna consciousness from mundane religion. That mundane so-called theists conceive of God as being the upholder of our genteel sense gratification. They do not understand or accept, nor do they want to understand or accept, that we are meant for Krishna's sense gratification and God is not meant for our sense gratification. So although theists like Christians and Muslims may be a notch up from atheists, they're not really that. They're actually basically they have the same basic consciousness. Both the atheists and the so-called theists have as the same goal of life, which is sense gratification. It's just that the so-called theists believe in a God who will help them to achieve that. So what is called theism, what goes on as theism in the world, is maybe just beginning to approach something called theism, but it's not actually theism at all. Theism means belief in God and acting according to His principles. But if one doesn't know who God is, then what is the value of saying I believe in God? Just like how many of you believe in Australia? Others are doubtful. Well, I also believe in Australia. Australia, it's a species of cucumber, right? So I also believe in Australia. You believe in Australia? I believe in Australia. A species of wild cucumber that grows in the Amazon. So, although we use the same word, the concept that goes with it is completely different. So those who say, I believe in God, yes, God is some angry old man with a long beard sitting on a cloud throwing thunderbolts down at those who are not Catholics. And once he came to earth and then he died for 3 days. God was dead. Then he got up again. And you pray to him and he fulfills all your desires. We believe in God. That's not God. So what is the value of their belief in God? Or that God is an undefined, undefinable... What? If it's undefinable, you can't say what it is. It's an undefined, undefinable. Using undefinable as a noun. So what is the use of such theism? So Krishna consciousness gives actual knowledge of God and of Krishna also. Because, don't say it too loud, Krishna is not really God. Oh, wait a minute, what's this sannyasi doing here, saying these things? Throw him out, he's a heretic. He's a disguised atheist. Well, of course Krishna is God, but mostly Vishnu is God. Because God doesn't milk cows. He sits on a throne and oversees everything. But Krishna milks cows. So Krishna is more than God. Now how can anyone be more than God? Well, Krishna consciousness is more than theism. Anyway, that's another discussion. But the point is, Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya katon mahan guna manoratena asati dhavato bahi. You like to give the translation of that? En español. Yeah, they're literally on the chariot of the mind, mental platform. Today is the first day of Julan Yatra. It's a very joyful festival. Radha Krishna Leela is always joyful. At the same time, we have the news of One of the members of the devotee community here? Of Spain, not local. Oh.
Spanish.
Having passed away, which is not joyful. So, it requires great faith in Krishna at such times to accept that God is good. One of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Sadananda, he was from Germany, and he was in India. He came to get guidance from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he came to India to get guidance from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And even after the passing away of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he stayed on in India. So when the Second World War broke out, he was put in a concentration camp, like all the other the other Germans and Italians in India at that time. So anyway, after the war, he went back to Germany, and he was a good friend of Prabhupada's actually, and he was in communication with Prabhupada. And he told Prabhupada that he experienced in Germany that pretty much everyone had become an atheist. Despite being under Hitler, they still had the gumption, you don't know that word. What's another word? Or the boldness, or the brazen, the shameless boldness to pray to God that they would win the war. And in those days, because they weren't so advanced in feminist understanding, the women didn't go to war. So they were praying to God, send my son home, send my brother home, send my husband home, send my father home. But they didn't come home. Mostly all wiped out. So the remaining population, they became, which consist of a few men and some older men and some young boys, very young, because at the end they were sending teenage boys out to fight, and lots of women. They wholesale became atheists. They prayed to God. They prayed to God, you should do this. He didn't. So what's the use of God? No, we won't believe in Him anymore. So, real devotion and real faith in God means to accept that whatever He does is for the ultimate good of all concerned, even if we cannot understand why. So in this world, many horrible things happen, especially in the modern age. But a devotee, he never loses his faith in Krishna, because he doesn't think that Krishna's job is to fulfill my sense gratification.